Welcome to Sexy Sunday, where we analyze sex scenes from films and TV shows, discuss what they tell us about the story, the characters, and more importantly, whether they're hot or not. I'm Jessica.
I'm Anouchka.
And this is Sexy Sunday.
Today we're talking about Bridgerton, which is an American period drama series created by Chris Van Dusen, and I have no idea how to say that. And
every week.
Let's go with that every single week. I forget to research it. And produced by Shonda Rhimes, and it is based on Julia Quinn's novels set in Regency London when debutantes are presented at court. I did such a bad job of this. That's fine. Do you want
Isn't debutante a French word?
Yes, it is. Stop piling on and kicking me when I'm already down.
I mean, would it be any other way of fun?
Do you want to take a wild guess at the sex scene number?
Did you do them per season or did you do them?
No, I did them overall.
Okay. I think like 8 or 9.
8 or 9 overall?
Well, unless you're counting, you know that scene in season 6? Episode 6, I meant, where they're like having sex all over the house. Did you count that as 1?
No, I counted that.
Oh,
each of them.
Then 12.
I felt like there were more. I didn't feel like it was a montage. I felt like obviously it was a montage, but still they were all individual sex scenes. It's not like it kept on going back and forth between them.
Yeah. Okay, then I'm gonna go with 12.
I counted 16, but I did count Daphne touching herself and Anthony and Sienna about to have sex twice, where you don't fully see them, but it's like I would call it a sex scene because it still felt like one.
It definitely felt like one. Because I rewatched only the sex scenes of season 1 because watching season 2 was enough of a headache for me. So I also counted those in my sex scene rewatch.
Yeah.
I as I've said to you, I just have a problem with period dramas in general.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's just not for you.
It's not for me. It just feels like the dialogue is really badly written. But I did it. I sacrificed myself for the podcast.
That's too good of you. I actually like period dramas in general. Like, it just depends. I don't like them when they're the classic period drama that's really like dark and everyone's wearing brown, which I feel like is a thing. Apart from the one with Keira Knightley, Pride and Prejudice. That's the only one that I can get behind. But I love Marie Antoinette so much, the Sofia Coppola one. And I think Marie Antoinette and Bridgerton are very, very different. And obviously they're very different aesthetics. But in terms of color palettes, they're quite similar. And I think that's why I enjoy watching Bridgerton, like literally watching it visually. Everyone's wearing pastel colors. It's very pretty. It's very much my vibe. Like, I wish everyone was dressed like this.
I definitely see that. And I will say, like, watching something like Bridgerton does really make me want to wear a fancy gown for absolutely no reason.
And you know what? While we're on the clothes, I love the detail that Simon is only wearing black at first, and that's even mentioned by Lady Danbury. And as soon as him and Daphne start getting closer and he's a bit less of a mardy person, he starts wearing colors. And I thought, I love those kind of things. I love those kind of details where if you don't pay attention, you miss it.
Nice. I didn't really notice, but to be fair, I wasn't properly watching.
Yeah, especially if you rewatched just the sex scenes. That he's probably just naked, and you probably
that went straight over my head.
I think they did a great job at showing that, like the kind of things that turns people on, which I think in so many films they just go for the obvious, like she's looking at his ass, he's looking at her boobs, like whatever. And I feel like in real life, yeah, sure, there are those things. I'm not saying no one's turned on by that, but it's so much more subtle. Like in real life, the kind of things that turn you on make no sense almost, and you're like, I don't know why this turns me on. And I feel like they really got
you
that.
Have one.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, no, I have one too that's like...
Well, I think everyone has one, you know? Like, everyone is like, why does this particular thing turn me on? No one knows. And I love how... And that's one that turns a lot of people on. But when they're at the boxing game, and Daphne is literally like gagging for it because the Duke like takes his jacket off and like pulls up his sleeves. And she's so horny just looking at his forearms. And I know that forearms are a thing. Like, I'm not against them. I'm not particularly into them, but I know that so many girls have said to me before, like, that's a part that I find super sexy in a boy.
Wow.
And I thought that was really clever of them to show this. It's like the small things that like make you want people, or like the way he takes his jacket off, the way he moves. Like, do you know what I mean? It's not just like, oh, he's got a good ass, which
he
can
does.
come into play, of course, but
No,
there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I really also enjoy, like, even though Daphne herself can be quite a bland character, I really enjoy you seeing her going from quite an innocent, a young girl, to then having her, like, sexual awakening.
Yeah, they
and
did
how
a good job of that.
They really did. And I really enjoy watching her, like, open up to it. And that her first sexual experience as well is with herself. And then he's like, what did you think of when you touch yourself? Like, that's just, it was just, I think, because of going from the bland awfulness that was season 2 to then going back to going back to season 1. I have many things to say on season 2. We'll get there.
Oh, yeah.
I think that for those sorts of period dramas where you kind of have on the outer coating this very prim, proper thing, but then underneath it you've got this like sexual tension that's bubbling.
Exactly.
They did a really good job of like capturing that.
Yes, they
especially
really did.
Through Daphne and Simon, like Daphne especially. Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Like, just speaking of that scene, which I mean the scene before, I love how, like, I know this isn't like an accurate show, but the idea of a duke asking a lady, you do touch yourself in the middle of a park in Regency, London, just really makes me laugh. Like, as if, I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I feel like that's really unlikely that they would be having this conversation.
I think so too. I probably, like,
I liked it, but it really made me laugh.
Yeah, that would have been a big scandal in and of itself.
It really would have been. And also, I absolutely love that after Daphne has her first orgasm, she suddenly can finish her piano song.
Yeah.
It's like, this is what it does to you.
Yeah, it's like, liberate yourself, ladies. Then you'll be able to finish everything that you start. Just masturbate.
Exactly. Don't you think that Daphne doesn't feel like a Bridgerton? Like, when you look at her, I feel like all the siblings kind of look alike, and I believe them to be siblings, and Daphne is completely a one-off.
Well, because they've all got dark hair, and then she doesn't.
Yeah, and she's very fair, like her skin is super fair, and she doesn't look the same. I think she's a good cast because she genuinely looks like she's from that time. I think her face, I can picture on a painting from that time, and she's got like a shape of face or something that really works in terms of that time in history. But I don't think she fits in with the rest of them, like physically.
Yeah, now you've mentioned it, I don't think so either. But I'm also trying to imagine her with dark hair, and I just don't think it would have worked for...
no, not at all, yeah.
The
actress.
Exactly. But that is really strange because it does feel like Eloise and the mum really look similar. And it's so weird that they wouldn't go full casting. Maybe it was just like she was the best actress for
I think she was definitely right for the role. It's just, to me, when I see them as a family, I'm like, I forget that she's their sister.
Yeah. I see that.
The issue I have is basically it's a will they won't they that lasts an entire season. In both seasons, actually, that can be applied. And I love that. But at the same time, because it's a period thing, they literally do not do anything. Like, it's not like maybe they kiss, maybe they have sex, but we still don't really know what's going to happen. It's like, no, you know that once they kiss, they're probably going to have to get married. So, of course, they're going to keep that until the very last minute possible.
Yeah, and this is the whole problem that I have with Bridgerton, is that I think it's the complete wrong setting for the story that they're trying to tell. especially because they've got this like pseudo gossip girl with Lady Whistledown. It's like if it had been like a Regency drama with Lady Whistledown as the main protagonist, where they're trying to figure her out, yeah, it might have got a bit repetitive, but you could have had it on the backdrop of like, oh my god, all these scandals of, say, all these men that have mistresses, that like it's suddenly, if you're wanting to make it subversive, it's like all the women kind of using this gossip to dismantle certain structures, or it's just like kind of following Lady Whistledown, unearthing a lot of people's like family secrets and wealth secrets. Like they're trying to tell two very separate stories within a structure of like Regency era, under like a rom-com-esque, like a really like a badly written one with full of tropes, and it's like you're not doing anything different, and it just, especially season 2, it got so boring, it got so repetitive and dull. It was like they just had these characters and this money that they wanted to throw at another story, and it didn't work because they didn't try anything different. And again, because you're also in the Regency era, so women don't have a lot of sway, and like the whole will they won't they in the second season is largely hinged on the fact that it would be this huge scandal, whereas if they took it out of that, it could have been a lot hotter. So I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot.
I think interestingly, they actually did try something different, but that's what your issue with season 2 is because in the second book is actually quite similar to the first one in terms of, so I've read it last night, and it's not dragged out as long at all. Kate and Anthony literally kiss within like the first 22 pages or something. He is supposed to be involved with Edwina, but he doesn't even ask her to marry him. Him and Kate end up getting married like very quickly because like a similar reason. Like it's kind of like they want each other but they don't really admit it, and they hate each other but they also are attracted to each other, and they get married for like convenience, basically, kind of like in season 1 they get married because they've been kissing.
Scandalous.
As a married woman, believe me when I tell you, you cannot kiss someone without marrying them. And and basically, like season 2 is like the second book is very similar to what happens in season 1. I've not read the first book, so I don't know if it's super similar to the first book either. But in terms of like it's basically again the story of they don't like each other, but then they're attracted to each other, and then they get married, and then they fall in love once they're already married. So we would have had a lot more sex, and it would have been more satisfying in that sense, but it would have actually been a repeat of season 1. So I'm kind of glad they didn't do that.
Oh, that's fair. But I wish they'd taken the sexiness, and because I feel like we were all lured in under false pretenses.
Well,
but
the thing is, when
agree,
you see, sorry, no, it's just when you see the sex scenes in season 1. You obviously were like, we were all expecting it to be at the same level in season 2, and I think we did get robbed a bit. I was just getting a little bit fed up of they are about to kiss and then they don't. I felt like one or two times, like if it happened 2 or 3 times, I would have been fine with it. It happened a lot, and I was like,
too much.
It feels like a bit repetitive now, but I can understand. It wouldn't have made any sense for them to get together straight away within the story. Like, Kate was not going to do that to her sister without any thinking. Like, I think it's fair that it takes that long for them to get together. My problem is once they do get together, we don't see enough of it. Where is the whole episode with the montage of them having sex everywhere for... And also, the sex they have...
100%.
Like, with Simon, do you think... With Simon and Daphne, do you think the reason why we see them having full, like, from the start to finish is because he pulls out? I mean, they could have just cut in the middle and shown us the end. Like, why do we see them having sex the entire time, whereas with Anthony and Kate, it's more like a quick thing? Like,
I don't know. I was thinking this too, because I was like, it's very hot in the first season, but then, like, basically no one seems to be having sex in the second season. So I think it's something to do with the writers and producers of the show wanting to tone it down.
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
I'm not sure it has anything like hinging on the story itself. Because were you thinking that it was because of the pulling out?
I don't know. I don't know. I found it weird.
Yeah.
That in the first season, it's not just that there's a lot of sex. It's like, it's very graphic. It's like very realistic. It's like you're there. Whereas in the second season, I think the sex scenes that we have, they're really hot. They're great. The actors are great, but they feel more filmy.
Yes, 100%. And even like the montage at the end of season 2, I was like,
Which I very much enjoyed, but yeah.
I enjoyed it, but then I was like, is that it?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Like, I was kind of like, this should be the start of more sex scenes.
Because I was also like, when you saw them when they're playing that croquet
Yeah.
game and they're like really into each other. And I remember I looked at the time and I was like, there's 4 minutes left on this season. And I was like, oh, we're finally getting to see them having really good chemistry. Because I feel like even though there was so much build up between them, because the build up, it frustrated me and it made me, it was too much build up. You didn't get to see their chemistry because all you were seeing was them bickering and falling out. So when you actually do see them getting on, you're like, wow, these characters do have great chemistry. Oh, and now the season's finished.
So I feel like you could still see that chemistry before, but I do know what you mean, and it was frustrating to get to a good point and get cut off. But both of the actors have said that there's going to be more of Anthony and Kate in the next seasons, even though they're not going to be the main characters. We'll get to see them in this like happy place, basically.
We
So
better not be another like drama filled. Also, why is there a season 3?
because they're
I know
following the books, and also because it's the most watched thing on Netflix. Why wouldn't there be?
it's just I know we're gonna watch it for another episode, and I mean, to be fair, we're doing season 1 and season 2, so I don't have to rewatch those. So
Maybe we
again,
can wait for season 4 and we can do season 3 and season 4 together. I also think, in a way, season 1 is kind of like the trope we talked about in the 50 Shades and After episode. Like, it's a different kind of trope, but, you know, the guy who says he can't commit and she changes him. That's a different kind of trope, but it's kind of edging on that bad boy, plain girl that everyone loves. Like, the actress is beautiful, but Daphne is quite plain, I'd say.
She
And
is.
all the boys are absolutely loving her. Whereas Kate, who's also beautiful but has like a personality, doesn't get. I know she doesn't want suitors, but it also feels like people are genuinely not that bothered. Like, I don't see many boys apart from Anthony. It doesn't feel like all the boys are like queuing up to dance with her and she's rejecting them.
But do you think it's because she's essentially like Edwina's guardian, because she's like the one that speaks for her? So the fact that Edwina is the diamond of the season means that she
Maybe,
takes on a
actually.
different role entirely.
Maybe. But I feel like still there's no like boy fan like checking her out. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I feel like there's not a lot of attraction for her, even if they can't act on it, compared to Daphne, who's got every guy she wants just like clicking her fingers.
Yeah. No, that is a good point, because Edwina is gorgeous.
Oh,
Not
she
Edwina.
is.
I mean, Edwina is
Edwina's
gorgeous,
gorgeous.
but Kate.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say, sorry, about those sex scenes in season 1 particularly?
I actually have a whole heap of notes right now.
I can't
So,
believe you have notes. Is this the first time ever you have actual loads of notes?
I know I made loads of notes for the will they won't they.
Oh, okay,
Like,
fair enough.
I mean, I'm not Anouchka level 17 pages. Oh God, the sex scene where Daphne realizes why Simon pulls out, and then she goes on top of him, and then like kind of assaults him. Like, that scene still makes me incredibly uncomfortable.
That's the scene that I find the hottest. I knew this was gonna come up, and I was like, should I say it or should I just be like, yeah, same, me too. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's when they look the hottest. I think they look like they're really enjoying themselves, both of them. I mean, they do in the other scenes as well, but I don't know. There's just something
I
about
think
that scene like that
there's
I really
something
like.
really hot about Daphne taking charge,
Yeah,
and of Simon really enjoying watching her.
exactly. But yeah, I
Like,
don't agree with her actions, but I do think it's a really hot scene.
I think I was just writing this. I was like, I think Anushka's gonna have a completely different perspective. Yeah, but it's definitely like there's hot parts to it. It's just like makes me anyway so
Yeah.
uncomfortable. But then I do also find is in the next episode where he goes down on her on the stairs. That was very, very hot.
Yeah, we agree with that. I found it funny because he's still pissed off at her and refuses to sleep with her, but it's fine to like go down on her.
Right? You're like, surely he'd be like, go down on me, none
Yeah.
for you.
We don't see. Do we see any girls going down on any boys in this show? I
We
don't think
don't
so.
actually. It's
Which
surprising.
I have some complaints about this. The show, I mean, they say that the show is filmed through the female gaze, blah, blah, blah. To me, I'm just like, how about we all have one gaze, which is hot people having sex is cool, but okay. Uh, that's my opinion. That I'm all for a universal gaze.
Universal hot gaze.
Yeah.
Thank you, Em.
Please and thank you. So I assume that's why it's all boys going down on girls and girls don't have to go down on boys. But isn't that like lots of girls enjoy going down on boys?
Yeah.
Like that cuts the like the power that comes from doing that. Like it can feel empowering. It can feel great. It can be something that you want to do because you have agency and you choose to do it. Now I don't know whether that's not happening because the girls are so innocent they don't even think of it as something they can do, which probably makes sense, for that time. Like, yeah, girls would be uneducated sexually and wouldn't even maybe consider this an act they can perform. But surely at some point the husbands would be like, honey, let me tell you about this wonderful thing.
Why don't you see how it feels in your mouth?
When do you think Daphne and Simon realized they were into each other?
Well, because I haven't really watched
Yeah.
full thing,
Now we
so
watched.
maybe you should. When do you think? Anoushka, my own original thought.
I think it's when they're at the art gallery and they're looking at this painting that his mom loved, and they almost hold hands or something, or they do hold hands. They do hold hands.
Yeah, I saw that in like a flashback of Daphne's.
Yeah, I think they probably were into each other before that, but I don't think they were admitting it to themselves. And if I'm not mistaken, I mean, I've literally just watched it yesterday, so I should, but it's a lot of episodes and they're quite long, so they do get a little bit messed up in my head. But I feel like that's the time they're both thinking back on in flashbacks at different moments. So I feel like
Yeah,
that was...
when Daphne's fingering herself,
Yeah,
I think
she's
that's
thinking
when
of
she
that.
flats back.
And
Flashes
he
back
thinks
in.
of it as well at some point when they're taking the paintings or something. So I think it's a moment that really made it real for both of them. Have you got anything else about their sex scenes before we move on to Anthony in season 1?
No, I think that's. I just really enjoy how they're just ravenous for each other.
Yeah. Isn't it weird
I
to
agree.
think people in Regency London were having sex just like people have sex now?
That is weird to think.
I mean, that's a dumb thing to say because obviously people were having sex, otherwise the population would have literally disappeared. But I just
but
find
you-
it super weird to be like, yeah, they were doing like the same movements. Like, it's like we're not inventing anything new.
No, that's true. They probably weren't using as many additional toys or
No,
whatever
probably
we have
not.
today.
Although we don't know. We don't know what they were capable
They
of.
were, well, probably the toys that they used were very rudimentary.
They
and
definitely weren't vibrating.
No.
I just want to personally thank Anthony and the opera singer, Sienna, for giving us 2 sex scenes in the first episode, because we do go for a bit of a dry spell afterwards for a few episodes, so I feel like we needed this.
do.
Especially the first one is really hot, and it's really... I think it sets Anthony's character so well, because he's like, yeah, he's having sex with her and, enjoying it, but his valet is waiting for him, like, super impatiently. He's checking his watch at the same time, so he's not fully into it. He's like, when he realizes he's late, which also sets up his character, which is, he's not the perfect, what do you call them, Viscount. Viscount.
Yes, Viscount.
He knows he's late, so he like starts banging her like harder and faster, which I think is like he's not just gonna be like, wait, I'm late, I'm gonna go, whatever, we won't finish. He's like, no, I am taking this to the end. This is still more important than whatever function he has to attend.
Yes.
But he still tries to balance it out with being there for his family, which I think is his entire arc, basically. You just see his entire season in this one scene.
That is a really good point. And I also, you can also see how passionate of a person he is, through like when you see him seeing her practicing singing, and then they're straight away in her room, and he's like up against the wall, like it's really hot as well.
Yeah, and he's carrying her. I think you can really see the difference between the sex he has with Sienna and the sex he has with Kate.
Yes.
While he's very dominating with Sienna, with Kate is a lot more balanced. Even though Sienna is not a virgin, I don't think, and Kate would be, I would assume. But with Kate, it feels a lot more. Actually, I have so much to say about that sex scene, but I'm gonna keep it for when we talk about season 2. Yeah, sorry, you speak.
No, I agree. Like, I feel like with Sienna, because also she's obviously not from the same class as him, and it makes it all the more complex. You obviously got another layer there and I really enjoy when you see them just like talking to each other, and they obviously have like good rapport and camaraderie. Like, he always chooses, well, even if it's subconsciously choosing with Kate, women that kind of match him.
They work so well. Also, I just love how season 1 is basically just Anthony trying to find someone to duel with. Like, he says he wants to. This is just, everything's just an excuse. He just wants to duel, really. He wants to duel the creepy guy. Then his mom is like, no, you will not duel him. Then he sees like Simon kissing his sister. He's like, this is it. This is my chance. Do you want to move on to season 2?
Yes, please. Well, I hate unnecessary build-ups, because you know what's going to happen at the end. You know they're going to get together, and each of these episodes are 1 hour long, and you're like, every time you see them together. And also, the other reason it frustrated me was because you watched it ahead of me, and we're like, I'm still on season 6 and there's no sex scene. And then you're like, finally,
still not season 6, Jess. Still season 2. If on season 6 they still weren't having sex, I would definitely have a massive complaint.
Episode
Is it because it felt so long for you that it literally felt like you were...
Oh my god, it literally, like, I think I had to take a break for a few days because I was just like, I cannot deal with this show. Anyway, episode 6, and then you were like, episode 7, finally there's sex. So I knew every time I saw them about to kiss that wasn't going to happen. But it was just so frustrating, and it got so boring. And at the end of it, when he does end up going down on her, and then she's like, oh my god, what's happened? And then she fucking knocks herself out. And then you're like, well, this is great. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, it did feel dragged out. Again, I mean, I've said it before, I'm not going to say it again, but I think it made sense for it to take this long, because there's no way they were going to jump in earlier, because it is actually like a big deal. They needed to really hammer in how much they sacrifice themselves for their family, and for it to really be understood, it needed to feel like this. Like, just fucking get together already. But it's like they can't, and that's what he says when he's like, oh, should we do something for ourselves for once? And I feel like it's like, yes, please, finally. But it would feel like this, like, otherwise it wouldn't feel like they're sacrificing themselves at all. If it was two episodes in, they were getting together, it would be like, well, we're not really feeling the weight of you restricting yourselves. If that makes sense.
It does, and I can see how it makes sense for the world, and like,
but it's not as enjoyable to watch.
It's not as enjoyable to watch, and I also think I'm not the target audience because I hate period dramas. So I think that the fact that it was so drawn out because of the time it was set felt so unnecessary to me, because I was like, there's no reason for this to be set in Regency England. the actor is like or Anthony, whatever.
Mm.
He's when he's really into someone and he's kissing them and he's like,
You really
it's
believe it.
you really believe it. And I think that's what made me feel even more cheated at the end when
Mm.
there's that whole montage of them in bed the next morning. Because I was like, oh, I really wanted to see
I
more of
know.
that.
I know.
Because it feels like it's also from season one, Anthony. It's like he's a completely different character. Because it's like in season one, he's got a mistress. He's not following the rules. He's like, oh, I've got brothers for that. I don't need to, like, just because I'm the eldest doesn't mean I need to find a wife. But then obviously he realizes his whatevers in season two. But it's like the fact that they completely forget, or like he forgets that he's a promiscuous person, was just kind of a bit, yeah, of a diversion from who you expected him to be.
That's really interesting. To me, it's more like he evolved. And I think in the first season, he is like that, but he's younger and he takes it less seriously. But ultimately, he does stop seeing Sienna.
Yeah,
And I mean, he does break up with her continuously throughout the show, like throughout the season, because of their we're in a different world. And ultimately, I've got like
yeah.
things I need to do for my family that I can't do with you, kind of thing. But I think he was a bit more volatile and a bit more easy to get persuaded or like persuade himself, because I think that's what he wanted to do. Whereas I think in season two, he's like, okay, I'm older now. I have to get my shit together.
I need to shave off these sideburns.
Yeah, I need to shave off the sideburns, get a haircut, be at my most attractive self so I can find myself a wife and who's gonna
Yes.
bear my children.
And you're like, I volunteer as tribute.
I think everyone's volunteering at this point, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
And also, we do see him at the start. He still like goes to prostitutes and stuff. Like he's not like he. It's just that again, they could have shown us.
Exactly. Like, where's the sexiness from season one? It's like they expended all their sexiness
But I guess
points.
maybe it just wasn't necessary at this point. Maybe they were like, you know what? If we do put those kind of sex scenes, it's just not going to show anything, and people are going to be like, well, Bridgerton is just about the sex, and maybe they wanted it to be about something else. I don't know.
The bad writing. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I think that it's obviously if they wanted to take it in a different direction, fair on them. It's their show, but it felt like a bit of a misstep considering how hot season one was. That
It
it's like
felt
a
like a
lot.
betrayal.
It was a betrayal. I feel personally betrayed by Bridgerton.
I know. I do have to ask, do you feel like Anthony acting like he's never felt this way when he's with Kate is a little bit diluted by the fact that we see how much he cares for Sienna in the first season, or do you think that's completely
Yeah.
different and you can feel strongly about two people and differently?
Well, you can definitely feel strongly about two people differently, but I think that it does dilute it a little bit. When I did see Sienna in the like when I was watching the sex scenes, I was like, oh, like I forget that he had a really big love interest
Yeah, that
in
was
the first season.
genuinely. I don't know, but I feel like he was in love with her. I feel like it was really like
Yes.
heartbreaking for him to end
Yeah,
this.
yeah, because he was like, I have to choose between
Yeah.
my social standing, and that's not who I am. Like, I'm a passionate guy. I want to have like someone that I care about.
And obviously, it
Which
doesn't
also,
mean you can't be in love again with someone else, like, absolutely. But I feel like in season two, I forgot, like, as you say, like, rewatching season one after season two, I'd forgotten that he was that invested because in season two, it feels like, oh, Anthony's just the guy who has sex with prostitutes but never commits to anyone, never feels anything for anyone, and now suddenly he's feeling. When it's like, no, actually, he has felt before.
yes,
I laughed so hard when when they're all in the living room, like the entire families, after the wedding has been called off, like the two families and Anthony and Kate are there, and the dog like comes and jumps on him, and Kate and him like stand up at the same time and literally cannot control themselves in front of their entire family, in front of her sister, who is just
yeah,
broken up with, and look like they're about to literally just bang each other in front of everyone in the living room. And
yeah,
I was like, this is no one, no matter how attracted you are to each other, no one needs to I fuck each other that much in front of your parents. And it did make me laugh that the sister was like, was I really that blind? Because I was like, oh, okay, they
Yeah.
did it on purpose. It's not just like a weird direction choice. It's like, it's kind of they're in on the joke. But that really made me laugh.
Yeah. I also enjoyed that. But I also thought that Edwina looks about 12.
Yeah, she was a good casting. She's very pretty and she's a good actress, but she does
Yes.
look really young.
Yeah,
Like,
because how young are you when you come out? Like 15, 16?
I don't know. She looks definitely younger than she is, I think.
Yeah.
But it does mean that when you see her and Anthony, it's difficult to root for them. They don't really look like they would be getting together.
No, he sort of looks like her older brother.
Yeah, because he looks his age. So it feels
Yes.
like very, and I'm sure at that time it wouldn't have been like anything weird, but it is, you automatically want him to be with Kate instead of Edwina.
Yeah, because they just look like a better match.
Yeah. So do they not actually have sex when they're having sex?
What
Like,
do you mean?
I don't think they actually have like penis in vagina sex.
As in what we see?
No, as in at all. Not at the end when they're in the bed, but when outside.
Oh, yeah, no, they don't. No, because
I
he
didn't
goes down on
understand it.
her.
Yeah, but I thought, and then they have sex. But actually, when he wakes up on the next morning, he's got his trousers on, and I don't think. And I feel
No, it
like we
doesn't
never
seem like
see
they
him
do.
taking them off. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that until I rewatched it today.
Huh.
But I'm
Yeah.
glad it was so obvious to you. It wasn't to me.
Yeah, because I was like, oh, when I watched it, I was like, oh, I thought they were going to have full sex,
Yeah,
or
but
like
no.
penetrative sex.
So when do you think they realized they're into each other?
I think it was like right at the beginning when they met. Anthony really liked her, and then Kate really liked him until she overheard his
Mm.
conversation, and then because there's a moment, the first moment where they almost kiss. It's around that time when I think they both realize that there's something more there.
With the bee sting.
What?
Where
Yes.
it's like I was like, are you seriously about to kiss? The guy's having a full-on panic attack.
Yeah. When do you, is
I
that when?
I think for him it's when I think definitely something happens, like they almost kiss at this point, so they clearly
Yeah.
realize they're attracted to each other. I think the way she reassures him when he's freaking out about the bee sting is when
Yeah.
he's like, okay, I'm into her. I think for her, she isn't. That's the point where she gets into him, but she doesn't admit it to herself. I think she admits it to herself when they're dancing, like when they get to the ball and no one's
Mm.
there, and Anthony's like, whatever, fuck it, let's just have a dance all together. Which, by the way, Lady Danbury is walking with a cane, but then she's just hopping around with the family.
Oh
And I
yes.
want to know how this is possible. I was just watching it being like, what's going on here? But anyway, I think that's the point where Kate is like, can't lie to herself anymore about the fact that she's got feelings for him.
Definitely, because they lock eyes
Yeah.
and like their eyes are locked the entire time, which actually was really hot.
Yeah, it was. But I
Like
feel like that's what they did really well that season. They just have a lot of eye contacts that are very charged.
yes. But I was like imagining myself being like that would be really hot knowing that you couldn't touch someone, like have someone in that way, but you've got that really intense eye contact and some physical touch.
I have a question that's nothing to do with them.
Okay, go ahead.
Is Benedict bi?
I wondered this because in the first season, when he's like getting off with Madame Delacroix,
Yeah, he
and
walks
then
in on the guy.
but he lingers for a while, and
Yeah.
I couldn't tell if he was lingering because he wanted something out of that situation or if he was turned on by that situation.
I think to me, I read it as this is someone I'm close to, and I'm kind of realizing that, I don't know, just seeing him in a sexual way. And I think he was confused by it. And then in season two, I feel like there was also a vibe with the guy, but then he has sex with the girl.
Yeah, yeah. Because I always thought that he was like they'd lean more into him being a more fluid sexual character.
Yeah, he feels
Speaking
like that.
Yeah, speaking of queer coding characters, you know what I'm going to talk about?
Yeah.
Did you get a vibe from Eloise and Penelope?
In season 1, definitely.
I even got it in season 2.
Did you?
Like, yeah, because of how protective Penelope is
Penelope.
over Eloise. Like, I know you haven't seen Jennifer's Body, but it really reminded me of Needy and
Right.
Jennifer's relationship because, like, Needy really looks up to Jennifer, and they have that kind of toxic teenage friendship. But there's also that quite like sexually charged between them both. There's something there, and it kind of felt like that carried on. Like for sure in season 1 when they were both introduced, I was like, oh, there's something there. But for some reason, I still felt like it carried through in this season.
Hmm.
But I
Interesting.
don't know if you felt the same.
Not really. To me, this season it felt much like I felt like Penelope was being this way with her just out of pure selfishness of her not wanting to find out that she was Mrs. Whistledown, Lady Whistledown. I feel like
Sounds
it
slightly less grand, does Mrs. Whistledown?
Mrs. Whistledown. I feel like Eloise was clearly attracted to Theo. There was a point where I was kind of convinced her and Theo were going to have sex between Kate and Anthony were going to have sex, and I was like, "You joking?"
Yeah, I totally thought something was going to happen between them. And at first I was like, oh God, they're going to kiss. And then when they didn't, I was like, why didn't they kiss? I was like, make up your mind what you want, Jess.
But yeah, I feel like Penelope's clearly in love with Colin, and
Yes.
Eloise is actually just doing her own thing. I really thought it was the case in season 1, but I don't anymore. What's your favorite sex scene overall?
Ooh. I really like when they're in the library and he's going down on her and then she's like, no, I want you to continue. And also when he's like, I think it's maybe the first time they have sex where he's like, what is it? Where did you touch yourself? Like we talked about. And he's like, what did you think about? And they start having sex. And she's like, I thought about you.
That was great
Well, like,
reenactment.
thanks. Cast me for your movies, but only your sex scenes. No, I'm kidding.
You'll
I'm
just
getting
come
that
in,
one.
do a walk on just for the sex scenes.
Yeah. What about you?
My favorite was the montage of Anthony and Kate. I thought it was super hot. I was just like, why are we being robbed the entire scene? It looks really hot. Like, it looks like they're doing loads of hot
Yes.
stuff. But apparently, the actor said that they did film, like, a very way longer sex scene for season 2, and then they just didn't end up using it. So maybe if we all, like, sign a
We
letter to Netflix, they can release it.
we were betrayed. We were shortchanged.
We just
Maybe there'll be.
deserve this.
We
Um,
do.
but yeah, I thought that was really hot. And then apart from that, I have to say my favorite is probably the first one where we see Anthony in the first episode of season 1, because again, I think it's the one that says so much about his character, and I genuinely think it's hot. People having sex against things is hot in general. So, and
Yeah.
it looks like he's knows what he's doing. So I'm up for it. How hot is the show?
Season 1, I'd say like a 6 or 7. Season 2 is a 1.
Oh,
I think I'm just like because I finished season 2 like maybe a few hours ago. I'm I'm holding no punches tonight.
this extremeness, I love it. I'm pretty sure in the episode about Brooklyn Nine-Nine that we recorded and then ended up not releasing because there was actually no sex scenes, and we're like, this is boring.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you gave Brooklyn Nine-Nine a higher sex grade than this.
I mean, maybe it was higher just for Andy Samberg because you know,
Maybe.
gotta love Jake Peralta.
Okay, I'll make this better. I'll give season 1 a 7.5, and I'll give season 2 a 5 or 6. It's obviously it doesn't have enough sex scenes, but I do think the sex we do get is hot. I think the actors are hot. I think they've got really good chemistry, and I do think their build up is hot. It's just a bit too long. Like I think it just we could have done with it. Maybe an episode before breaking would have been better.
Yeah.
Or I actually think the build, it's not the length, it's the fact that they only had one thing, which is we're about to kiss and then we don't. I feel like if they'd done a build up that was a little bit more diverse and varied.
And it wasn't always them being like, I hate you. Why are you being, why won't you let me date your sister? You are a terrible person. If it wasn't continuously.
Yeah, I think they should have broken out of the hatred circle, wanting each other circle a little bit before. And yeah, I agree with that. But I still thought it was pretty hot.
I'm holding my one.
That's totally fair. So what are we going to talk about next time?
We're going to talk about Weeds.
Yay.
Which is Anouchka's favourite show.
Yeah, we're doing all of my favourites at the moment. It's just turning into the Anouchka show, 100%. Cool, well, see you next time.
See you next time.